Before we get started, please go over to Amazon.com and grab a copy of my book, Education and Justice. If you have an African-American son in public school, you need this book because I teach you the many ways that public schools mistreat African-American boys and what you can do to help your son. So go over there and get your copy immediately. The one thing that the GOP, MAGA, Trump fear more than anything else is black people voting. They don't want us voting. They do everything they can to try to block our votes because our ancestors had it right. The power to vote and to select the people we want representing us in this democracy, in this constitutional, democratic republic is extremely important. Now, for all the folks out there who say voting doesn't matter, it doesn't accomplish anything, it hasn't gotten us anything, those folks are just willfully blind. Dare I say, willfully ignorant. Even worse, they're just intentionally putting out disinformation. Because voting is extremely important. If it wasn't, these people wouldn't be doing all these things they try to do to prevent us from voting. So let's go to another screen. I want to share a story with you. The NAACP, an advancement project, sue Virginia, the state or the Commonwealth of Virginia, over illegal rejection of college student voter registrations. Let's read this article. Always bring your receipts, always. The NAACP Virginia State Conference and Co-Counsel Advancement Project filed a lawsuit in the state challenging the unlawful rejection of voter registration applications from college students who live on campus. So understand what's happening. Virginia state officials allegedly are kicking out applications, voter registration applications of college students in the state of Virginia. So the NAACP Virginia State Conference versus John O'Bannon et al., that means others, alleges that election officials across Virginia are disenfranchising eligible student voters by requiring, watch this now, dormitory names, room numbers, campus mailbox information that are neither requested on Virginia's voter registration form nor relevant to determining voter eligibility. Those things are simply just not important. They're not significant, right? So I have to classify this video under what I'm going to call, because I'm going to be doing more of these videos over the next year, I'm going to classify this as voter suppression alert. Voter suppression alert. That's what this is. This is my voter suppression alert. Okay? And this is in my space. I am a civil rights attorney, right? So I fight to protect and to preserve our civil rights, our voting rights, our fair housing rights. So this again is a voter suppression alert. If you have a college student in your family and they live somewhere in another state, you need to talk to them about this particular story. So let's dive a little deeper. NAACP Virginia State Conference and Advancement Project seek to block Virginia election officials from rejecting voter registration applications that do not provide the irrelevant dorm room information to ensure that students are able to exercise their fundamental right to vote in the upcoming November election and beyond. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at them trying to steal the election. We're looking at them trying to rig the election a year out. And this is very, very sneaky because these kids send in their registration form and then they go to vote only to find out that their registration form has been kicked out or rejected. And I doubt very seriously if they get any sort of notice. So every college student that you know, if you can make this announcement in your church, if you can make this announcement in whatever organization that you're in, so that people have, about a year to try to get these types of things straightened out. So this is a clear attempt to rob students of the right to vote in a state where they study and potentially live once they graduate, said Anthony Ashton, Senior Associate General Counsel at NAACP. Virginia's own voter registration form does not ask for dorm room information, and federal law makes clear the immaterial omissions cannot be used to deny eligible citizens their right to vote. These practices are discriminatory, unlawful, and must stop immediately. The complaint asserts that the Virginia election officials' actions violates the materiality provision of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the First and 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution. Eligible voters affected by this unlawful practice include students at institutions such as Norfolk State University, that is an HBCU, that's why this is discriminatory, Virginia State University, another HBCU, George Mason University, James Madison University, Old Dominion University, University of Richmond, and Virginia Commonwealth University. That amounts to a lot of college students. Virginia's college students represent the next generation of civic leaders, and their voices matter, said Reverend Cozy Bailey, president of the NAACP Virginia State Conference. When barriers are placed in front of young voters, it sends a message that their participation is not valued. We will not allow unnecessary obstacles to silence students who are eager to do their civic duty. Thousands of young voters on Virginia college campuses want to make their voices heard in this year's election, but too many of them are at risk of being disenfranchised by Virginia policies that are restricting students' access to the ballot. We must remove the barriers that infringe on their rights to vote. Ensuring equal access to the ballot box for Virginia's students is not only a matter of fairness, it is required by federal law and the U.S. Constitution, said John Powers, legal director at Advancement Project. The lawsuit comes as the NAACP, and I want you to pay close attention to this paragraph. The lawsuit comes as the NAACP pursues litigation against the states of Texas and Missouri and in counties across the country over their unconstitutional gerrymandering, and against the Trump administration for an executive order that would suppress millions of voters. And this doesn't include the lawsuits that are being litigated by the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, which just argued a case in front of SCOTUS just a couple of weeks ago. So the NAACP is still out here fighting big time for African Americans, and they have been doing so for the last century. When you are and we are home thinking about other things, the folks at the NAACP and the NAACP Legal Defense Fund are fighting. So we need to just give them a huge shout out. They deserve it, the work that they do. And you have some in the African American community that love to disparage and attack the NAACP and the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, as if they do nothing for the African American community, as if they've done nothing for the African American community, when it has been the NAACP who has been in the courtrooms fighting to protect our rights. So when people say that, that shows you their level of ignorance. That shows you their level of ignorance. And they primarily fight for African Americans. Primarily. And they have some huge victories under their belt. And the most important one being Brown versus Board of Education. But that's not the only one. There were many that led up to Brown. And there are many after Brown. And it was the lead attorney, Justice Thurgood Marshall of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, that became the first African American to serve on the U.S. Supreme Court. So we owe the NAACP, as African Americans, we owe them a huge shout out. And we also owe them our support, our financial support. So go to their website and donate and reject this foolishness that they don't do anything for African Americans. All right, so this goes on to say the NAACP Virginia State Conference has long worked to eliminate barriers to the ballot box and ensure equitable access to voting for all Virginians. This lawsuit underscores the organization's commitment to protecting the rights of young voters and preventing systemic disenfranchisement. All right, so they're doing their thing. They're doing their part. And I remember, in fact, in 1984, when the Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. ran for the presidency, I worked with the NAACP on his campaign, getting people registered to vote. It was an honor. It was a big deal back then for Jesse to run for the presidency, and did a very good job. Very good job. He is an A&T Aggie graduate, so am I. I went to school with his two sons, Jonathan and Jesse Jr., and they are a remarkable family. And so, yes, I was honored to work with the NAACP in my hometown to get people registered to vote who had never been registered to vote before. So, yes, the NAACP has been doing a stand-up job for the African-American community. All right, so if you have a college student or college students in your family, please tell them to get registered to vote. And if they have already registered to vote, let them know that their registration form, wherever they attend college, could have been rejected. So they literally need to go now and check to see if they are indeed registered. All right. And before I go, let me show you the lawsuit itself. This is the lawsuit in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia, Alexandria Division. So there are a long list of defendants here. John O'Bannon, Rosalind R. Dance. She's an African-American woman. And all these are allegations, by the way. They haven't been proven yet, but the NAACP believes, obviously, that it has a strong case against these people. Otherwise, they would not be spending their own money litigating this. So the complaint just simply says, starts out the introduction, Plaintiff NAACP Virginia State Conference, which is the Virginia branch of the NAACP, brings this action against Susan Bills in her official capacity as Virginia Commissioner of Elections, the Virginia State Board of Elections members in their official capacities, and the registrars and members of the Board of Elections in Chesterfield and Fairfax County, and the cities of Hampton, Harrisburg, Harrisonburg, Norfolk, and Richmond in their official capacity, and alleges the following. The right to vote is fundamental and foundational to American democracy. Every eligible citizen of voting age residing in Virginia has the right to vote. On too many college and university campuses in Virginia, however, the right to vote requires that a student jump through hoops, such as providing a college dormitory name, a dorm room, a campus mailing address, and or mailbox number, none of which has any relevance to the student's eligibility to vote, none of which asks for or even reference on Virginia's voter registration application, and none of which serves any material purpose in the voter registration process. This lawsuit seeks declaratory and injunctive relief to stop defendants from unlawfully rejecting voter registration applications and same-day registration provisional ballots completed by otherwise eligible college students who provide a valid campus ID, but not a dormitory room or dorm room or dormitory name, mailing address, campus mailing address, or mailbox number. An applicant cannot be denied because a student residing on a Virginia campus does not include that information in addition to an otherwise valid campus address. Again, this is voter suppression. These are allegations, but if proven true, these are voter suppression tactics that likely would not even be happening right now if SCOTUS had not gotten rid of Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. And this shows us how these folks intend to operate from now until November to try to rig and or steal the November 2026 midterm elections. So we got to be on top of it. If you have a student in college, away from home, warn them what could be happening or what could have happened to their voter registration form. All right? So once again, I chalk this up as a voter suppression alert. That's what this is, a voter suppression alert. A voter suppression alert. All right? So with that said, thank you for watching this video. I am Reverend and Civil Rights Attorney Augustus Corbett. Stay woke.